All right, so just last weekend, I was on a road trip up to a small town near here called Cloudcroft, New Mexico. Amazing pizzeria, brewery, distillery there, and their signature cocktail of the day was based on one of Mixed Up's ready-to-drink cocktail mixes. And so they took it and enhanced it. So that gave me the idea, why can't we do the same thing? So we are going to start with, this is the pineapple daiquiri canned cocktail. We're gonna start with this, and then we're actually going to add mango juice, grenadine, a splash of Brut, and this is from St. Clair, one of our local wineries, a splash of Brut, and a garnish of orange and cherry. So let's put this together. All right, so we're gonna start with the pineapple daiquiri mixed up canned cocktail. And remember, with these, you wanna give it 2 good shakes. You don't have to overly shake it, but you wanna just make sure all those fresh ingredients are mixed up. Each can is 2 servings, so we're gonna put 4 ounces into our shaker that already has ice in it. Very precise measuring. All right, so we've got our 4 ounces of the pineapple daiquiri canned cocktail. We're gonna add 1 ounce of mango juice. We're gonna give it a splash of grenadine. And then we're gonna give it a good shake. All right, from there, get some ice in our glass. I love this color. And for those of you that have been following me, you know this is one of my favorite sounds. We're gonna top it off with our Brut. Just a little bit of effervescence going into it. And now we're gonna skewer our cherry and our orange wedge. And there we have it. What should we call this? We need to name this. So we started with our pineapple daiquiri. Let's call it our pineapple mango surprise. How does that sound? So today I'm going to be sharing with you one of my favorite recipes for a batch cocktail called Chatham Artillery Punch. One of the great things about doing a batch cocktail is that there's a lot of preparation you can do prior to the event. So with Chatham Artillery Punch, there's 2 things we can do ahead of time. Black tea is one of the ingredients, so you can brew your black tea prior to the event date. I love the Harney & Sons black tea, one of my favorites, very aromatic and complementary to the recipe. And then the other thing we can do is prepare something that's called oleo saccharum. Oleo saccharum is this delicious, fragrant syrup that's made by combining cane sugar with the peel of citrus fruit. Typically, lemons are what is used to make oleo saccharum, but you can use limes, you can use oranges, anything that has a citrus peel with it. It's also great for things like tea, lemonade, any kind of a flavoring where you want something sweet and citrusy. So let's get started. Okay, for our recipe, the oleo saccharum ratio is gonna be 12 lemons to 1.5 cups of sugar. So let's get started on peeling those lemons. So something to remember when you're peeling the lemons is you want to peel them as lightly as possible, so you're getting primarily the outer peel and not getting too deep down into the white membrane below the outer peel. Once we have our 12 lemons peeled, we're going to take all of our peels and put them into a bowl. Then we're going to add our 1.5 cups of sugar into that. So we dump the sugar in. Then we're gonna take a spoon and just stir that really good to make sure that all of the peels are completely coated in sugar. Once you've got that mixed really well, you're gonna seal it, and then we're gonna put this in the fridge, minimum 6 hours to let this process happen, ideally 24 hours. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to juice the 12 lemons that we just peeled. I use the old school juicer. I mean, if you've got, there's the squeeze juicers that you can do, and there's also electric juicers, but this is what I use. And something to keep in mind is after you juice the lemon into here, before I put this juice into the bowl, I like to strain it. We want to eliminate the possibility of pulp in the juice because we want a nice clear punch when we're done, and pulp can kind of muddy it up a bit. Also, it's a little tricky since the lemons have been peeled. They're a little bit like slicker on the outside, so if you're using this type of a juicer, it takes a little bit of a finesse to kind of get used to it. Just kind of be aware of that. We're going to take the juice of the 12 lemons that we just juiced, add it to the oleosaccharum, mix it up really good, then take the peels out, and then that becomes the flavor component of the punch. Okay, so we've removed all of the lemon peels from the oleosaccharum mixture. We've stirred in all of the lemon juice, so we've mixed that syrup and the juice together. Now all we need to do is put it all together. Let's do it. We've got our punch bowl. Go big or go home, very on brand for the Consummate Host. And then here's all of our ingredients. So we've got our delicious lemon syrup mixture that we've made. We've got a light rum, a bourbon, a cognac, and a sparkling wine. The original recipe calls for champagne, but really all we're doing with that is giving a little bit of effervescence to the mixture. So you don't need to splurge on an expensive champagne. Let's do this. So the first thing we're gonna do is, this is our 2 cups of black tea that we already had prepared. So that'll be the first to go in. So the second ingredient we're gonna add is the lemon syrup mixture, so that'll go in. And now for the final ingredient, and also one of my favorite sounds. Stir that up. I like to use Nonly ice cubes. So they're the frozen ice cubes that don't melt. That way we don't dilute the punch. So I'm gonna put those in. Ah, delicious. All right, so our next summer cocktail we're going to be doing is a creamsicle mimosa. So the creamsicle mimosa is kind of a play on the traditional mimosa. It's just a little bit creamier. Kind of reminds me of like what a melted dreamsicle would taste like. Super easy to make, super fun and surprising because it's a little unexpected for guests. So simply start with 8 ounces of orange juice, fresh squeezed preferred. And just so you know, I like a little bit of pulp in my orange juice that I use for these. So totally a preference, but I do like a little bit of pulp. So we start with 8 ounces of orange juice. Then we're gonna add 2 ounces of half and half. And we're gonna add 2 ounces of sweetened condensed coconut milk. And this is the part that just makes it creamy and delicious. Once we have our half and half and our sweetened condensed coconut milk into the orange juice, stir that up. And then from here, we're gonna disperse it into our 4 flutes. All right, once we have that put into our 4 flutes, then we're gonna top it off with our Prosecco. And lastly, we're going to garnish with an orange slice. So we'll just take our slices. And there we have our creamsicle mimosas.
Okay, so the first mocktail we're starting with is going to be the mojito, or as some people like to call it, the no-hito, because of no alcohol. Super fun, fresh ingredients, easy to make. So we'll need lime, we're going to need mint leaves, we're going to need simple syrup. Then I'm going to show 2 alternative methods that involve strawberries and rosemary. So let's get started with our basic mojito. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to quarter a lime. So let's go ahead and cut that. Perfect. And once you've done that, let's go ahead and take 2 of those quarters and cut those in half as well. So we've got basically 4 smaller pieces of lime. So we'll start with that. You're going to need a mortar and pestle because we're going to be muddling our mint leaves with our lime to make the drink. So we're going to start with about 10 medium-sized sprigs of mint. All right, so once we've got our 10 leaves in the mortar, we're going to go ahead and add 1 of our lime quarters, and let's go ahead and muddle that. Now, we're going to go ahead and add another one of our lime pieces. And now we're going to add a tablespoon of our simple syrup. All right, now let's go ahead and muddle that. So that lime juice is activating with those mint leaves. And then the simple syrup is what gives it its sweetness. Once that's all muddled together, that's really our flavor base for the mojito. So we're going to take our rocks glass and we're going to add this into the bottom of our rocks glass. Leave everything in there. You can leave the rind of the lime can stay on. Everything can stay on. Just take that into the bottom of the glass. So now we'll add our ice. Okay, and once we've got our ice in, then we're going to top that off with some club soda. I'm using Perrier. There we go. So we'll top that off with our club soda, sparkling water. Then we'll finish off with a lime garnish and a little sprig of mint just to give it some visual texture. So there's our lime garnish. And then we're going to pluck our mint here. There we go. I'm going to rinse this off. And then we put that into our beverage just like that.
The first cocktail we're going to make today is called a Campari Spritzer. I love this cocktail for several reasons. First of all, it's a beautiful, colorful cocktail, and also it's got a very fresh, citrus-forward flavor with grapefruit, and then of course the Campari has got this real herbal component that mixes so well with the citrus element. So let's make a cocktail. The first thing we're going to need to do is prep our grapefruit. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut our grapefruit in half. And then we're going to go ahead and squeeze that so we can get some good, nice grapefruit juice. Ultimately, we're going to want about 2 ounces of grapefruit juice. All right, once we have our grapefruit juice squeezed, then this portion is going to make 4 of the cocktails. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to slice as thin as we can 4 slices of grapefruit. So let's go ahead and do that. So now we're going to prep our glasses for the Campari Spritzer. Okay, so we're gonna serve the Spritzer in wine glasses. And what we're going to do is we're gonna take that grapefruit slice and put it down into our glass. So you can see it kind of angled down into the glass. And once we get our grapefruit slice into the glass, we're gonna go ahead and add our ice. Okay, so you can see we've got all of our glasses prepped. So we've got our grapefruit slice inside the glass. We've got our crushed ice. Now we're gonna prepare the Campari. We wanna go ahead and pour in about 2 ounces of our grapefruit juice. So we'll add that to our measuring cup here. Perfect, so 2 ounces is right at about 1/4 of a cup. Then we're gonna put in 12 ounces of our Campari. All right, so we've got our 12 ounces of Campari, our 2 ounces of grapefruit. All right, we'll stir that up. And now that we have that mixed, we're going to divide this equally amongst our 4 glasses. And like I said, one of the things I love so much about working with Campari, not only the herbal flavor, but it's such a beautiful color. So we're gonna divide that up. All right, once we have our Campari mixture into our glasses, now we're going to top it off with 2 things. We're gonna top it off with some sort of a sparkling wine element. I'm using Prosecco today. And then just a little bit of a grapefruit spritzer. We're gonna add about 3 ounces of Prosecco. So just remember we're doing 3 ounces of Prosecco, and then we're just gonna top it with the grapefruit soda, about 2 ounces. So let's go ahead and add that. This is what really brings this cocktail to life. So fresh and refreshing. And then we'll top it off with the grapefruit soda. Give that a little stir. And there we have our Campari Spritzer.